Hey guys, what's going on? Video number 4 in my 6-part Army Combat Fitness Test video series. We're going to go over the deadlift today, so the 3-rep max, hex bar, trap bar, whatever you want to call it, deadlift. I'm going to go over kind of 3 different areas, points of performance, so your setup, keys to doing the lift better in a sense, and then I'm also going to have some alternate options for you, and then I'm also going to have some different, and of course I didn't put my visual aid for today, so got something special for you guys. Oh. All right, so as you can see, I got my options here: keys, points of performance, and programming. So I'll start with the keys in regards to the deadlift. And the most important thing is your setup. When it comes to any lift, getting set up properly is 90% of it. The other 10% is executing the lift. So if you can get yourself set up properly, get the right muscles engaged, right things turned on, the odds of you performing the lift well are substantially higher than just jumping in the bar and just trying to rip it off the floor. So your setup is very, very, very important. If you've never used a hex bar before, them calling it a deadlift, yes, it's a deadlift in the sense that you're picking weight up off the ground. It's not on your back like a back squat, but your body position is going to be much more similar to what you would see with a back squat or a front squat. If you look at someone from the side doing a back squat, your shin angle and your back angle are typically going to be the same. When someone's doing a conventional deadlift with a straight bar, the bar is going to be in front of their base of support, so it's going to be out in front of them. So their shins are typically going to be a little bit more vertical, and their back angle is going to be a little bit more tipped. So they're not going to line up perfectly. You still have to push the floor to stand up a conventional deadlift, but there's going to be much more posterior chain, glutes, hamstrings, and back doing the work, whereas with the hex bar, it's going to be much more quad dominant. Your posterior chain's still going to work, don't get me wrong, your back's still going to be working, but there's going to be a little bit more of a focus on your anterior, the front side of your legs, as opposed to the posterior side. But with the setup, you want to get in there and you want to take the slack out. So upper body, I wrote upper there. You need to have tension in your upper body. If you go to start to pick the bar up before you lock in your shoulder blades, and it's really something as simple as standing in there, grabbing the handles, making sure it's centered on your body. You don't want your hands to be out in front of your ankle bones, and you don't want your hands to be back behind your ankle bones. You want your hands, the center of your hand, the center of your wrist really is the good marker, to be lined up right on the knob of your ankle bone. That's typically your base of support. You probably have maybe a 2-inch window in there, one way or the other, but that's where you'd want to be lined up and set up. And then from there, once you have your grip established, grip the bar hard, grab it tightly, grab it firmly, and then when you have it grabbed, think about trying to touch your shoulder blades, or even just, if you're like, what are my shoulder blades? Just think about trying to pull your shoulders back. Try to think like you're gonna try to touch your shoulders behind your back together. That's gonna help engage and tighten that upper back. So that's kind of your connection from the weight up through your arms to the rest of your body, because your legs are what's gonna do the work. Your arms are there to lift the weight, but they're not necessarily lifting the weight. They're just holding on to the weight. It's your legs that are going to do the vast majority of the work for you. So once you have that established, you're going to push the floor away. So think like you're going to do a vertical jump. If you're going to do a vertical jump, you're going to be in a similar position, like in this setup, and then you're going to jump straight up in the air. Similar thing here, except you have weight in your hands now. So that principle of pushing the floor away from you is going to be what's going to help carry over into the actual performance of the deadlift. Use your legs. That's why I have use your legs. Use your legs, because it is your legs that are the driving force. Your back is going to work, but your back is more there to maintain position, to allow you to lift more weight, to stay in a good position so you get the maximum amount of what your legs are doing to do the work. Because your arms are the extension of your legs. I know it's hard to think about that, but if you're sloppy through your back, as you try to stand up, you don't have tension anymore because your back's rounding. So the weight isn't going to move off the floor until all of a sudden you're at the end range of all your little spinal segments. So the key is lock everything in nice and tight. And for your back, your spine, like up at your neck, it has a curve, right? And then your lower back has a similar curve. What I try to tell people is you want to replicate that curve in your neck and your lower back all the way down to your tailbone. Yes, your thoracic spine is curved out the other way, but if you're thinking about trying to have like that C, that reverse C shape in your entire spine, that just naturally is going to get you to engage the muscles as opposed to being like, all right, get your rhomboids turned on, or make sure like, just think like, all right, turn my back into a C. And if you can maintain that throughout, you're going to be great. Using your legs, standing it up. That's the hardest part, is literally breaking it that first inch off the ground. So if you have your tension, if you're nice and braced, that's why I wrote breath. Breath is huge with this. That's going to allow you to tighten everything down. So if you think of, if you had like a can of pop or soda, whatever you guys call it, and it's open or it's closed. If it's closed, you can stack a bunch of weight on top of it and it's not going to give out. If you have that same can, but then you open it and you try to put more weight on it, now all of a sudden it's lost that pressure that it had that was giving it its strength. Same thing applies to your inside. Same thing applies to your torso. So big breath in, brace down, like think like someone's about to punch you in the stomach. Like you don't want to be loose for that. You want to be nice and braced, brace for it, stand up. As you're standing up, it's okay to let a little bit of air out. You just don't want to dump all of the air out. And then control. You can't bounce the bar off the ground. It's called a deadlift for a reason. So you're supposed to be, you got to do 3 reps. So the first rep most likely is going to be the hardest. And the second and third reps are probably going to feel, the second rep will probably definitely feel easier because you have a little bit of momentum with it. You already did it. You kind of know what the weight feels like. So you still want to reestablish that tightness every time you come back to the ground. And it doesn't have to be a long process. You can literally control the weight back down, rebrace, and go again. No judge is going to say you took too long if that's what you do. If you just set it down, take a big gulp of air, lock everything down, brace everything in, and go. Now, some people don't have access to a hex bar all of the time. That's okay. You can still train it. Like the main thing that you should be doing is squats, just because of the body angle, just because of the body position. Now it is different because the bar is sitting on your back and it's not challenging your grip at all. So the combination of squatting and doing deadlifts is super important with this. So if you have access to a straight bar, you have no reason that you can't be training to help your hex bar deadlift. Standard, regular, conventional deadlifts, and I'll link to all of these things, all of my demo videos of these in the notes below, so that way you can actually see them, so I won't go through all of them. But regular standard deadlift, your setup's going to be a little bit different, but the thing is it's going to be working your grip and challenging your grip a bunch, so that will help carry over to this. Because if you were just squatting all the time and say you squat 300 pounds, yeah, maybe you could deadlift 300 pounds for 3, but if you've never tried to pick up 300 pounds, that's going to feel totally different as opposed to squatting it. So getting in deadlifts will help. Segment deadlift, it's just a fancy way to say pause deadlifts. And typically what I have people do is pause. You can pause in multiple positions, but I like to have people pause 1 inch off the ground because that's the hardest part, is breaking the weight from the floor. There'll be times, I'm sure you've probably seen it, you've seen someone trying to lift the weight and their body just keeps moving but the bar doesn't do anything. It's like it's magnetized down or it's like stapled to the floor. You can train at lighter weights by adding pauses into this. So maybe you don't have enough weight. Making the lift shittier, making the lift harder is a way to train to get that adaptation that you're looking for to increase your strength. So a 3-second pause, 1 inch off the floor, then standing all the way up. Great. 3-second pause right in front of your knee is another great way. And you can do a segment with a hex bar too. You can use a hex bar and segment it as well. So if you're someone who struggles with like, well, I have a hard time, just add some pauses in, mix up the variation, and it gives you a different training stimulus, and that way you can get better at it faster. Romanian deadlifts, those are great. Challenge the grip, challenge maintaining tension in your back, also really target your glutes and your hamstrings. So that's just an all-around great exercise that should be in everybody's routine. Whether you're doing it with dumbbells, a barbell, one dumbbell, a kettlebell, doing single leg, all of them. I'll link to all that stuff as well. Controlled eccentric. So the eccentric is the lowering portion. So in a deadlift, concentric, you stand up with it. The eccentric is the lowering back to the ground. So a back squat, you start with it on you, you go down eccentrically, and then you stand up concentrically. So different muscle contractions there. So controlled eccentrics are a way, same thing. You don't have as much weight that you want to use. You take 10 seconds to lower the bar back to the ground. I promise you, your back, your legs, your arms, your grip are gonna be screaming. So just a great way to add some variation. All right, so when it comes to programming, if, first and foremost, the easiest way, let me program for you. I'll have a link below for my 12-week ACFT train up for you. Takes all the guesswork out of it, but I still wanted to break it down for those of you that want to kind of do it on your own. I can respect that. So linear progression, the simple way is just to kind of look at these different graphs. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Like, I feel like I've said that in every video now. But the thing with it being is it does work, especially for people who are new to a movement, new to lifting weights. It's a great way that pick a rep scheme. Like, so the test is for 3 reps. Okay, you probably, if you're new to this, you probably should be doing more reps. So maybe you're doing sets of 8. So then what you're gonna do, we'll just say week 1, you're gonna do 3 sets of 8. All right, so that would be this week. All right, now you're gonna just always do 3 sets of 8. Say this is a 1 week, week 2, week 3, week 4. So this week you do 3 sets of 8 at, we'll just say 100 pounds. Then this next week, ideally, we're doing 3 sets of 8 at 105 or 110 pounds. And then week 3, we're doing 3 sets of 8 at 110 to 115 to 120 pounds. So that's a linear progression. You're increasing the load, sets and reps are staying the same. Now, another way to linear progress is to add another set. So we're doing 3 sets of 8 at 100, 4 sets of 8 at 100, 5 sets of 8 at 100. But the thing is, this is like a test where you have to put out strength, right? So ideally, you probably are increasing the weight for this. So then you do this for 3 weeks. In that 4th week, that's meant to be more of a recovery week. What you would want to do is you could keep the weight the same, but just knock the reps way down. It's a way to keep the intensity high, but drop the volume, give yourself a little bit of an ability to recover. Now, for some people, if you're truly, truly, truly brand new to lifting, you can linear progress for a long time. If you're doing 3 sets of 5 and you've never done it before, you might be able to go 8 weeks, 10 weeks by adding 5 pounds every week and like, no, I'm still able to do this. For those people, just keep going. Just keep going, keep adding weight every week. You know, for a deadlift, somewhere in the 5 to 10 pound range is good. Start light in a sense, so that way you can get more practice. Because this is something as well, like strength takes time. The more practice you can have at lifting weights, the better. Because you learn how to brace, you learn the positions, you get more experience feeling the positions. So don't be in a rush. Like, strength takes time. It's not like the SAT where you can just get a book and just try to cram a bunch of vocab into your head 24 hours before the test. Like, if you've never deadlifted before, it's gonna take a while for you to get good at deadlifting. But you will get good at it, I promise you. It just takes time. If you stay with it, if you stick to it, if you're consistent, you will get better. So that's basically linear progression. I don't want to get too into the weeds because you can go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole when it comes to progressing. But if you just say, I'm going to do 3 sets of 5 and I'm just going to keep adding 5 pounds until I can't add 5 pounds anymore, well then, okay, I hit that point. I can't get my sets of 5. I'm only getting 3, I'm only getting 4 reps or whatever. Okay, well the next week, drop your weight drastically back down and then just start building it back up again. So that's the simplest way to just kind of lay linear progression out there for you. If you're someone who has like a hex bar and you know what your 1 rep max is with a hex bar, it most likely is going to be different than a conventional deadlift. So if you have a 1 rep max, you can do percent work. As you do it, as you lay it out, obviously, like, you don't just start up at 90%. You want to build up to it. You want to prepare your body for what you're asking it to do. So you would probably start somewhere in the, I mean, pending the last time you deadlifted. If you haven't deadlifted in a long time and then all of a sudden you start deadlifting again, it's going to be super taxing on you. It's going to feel terrible and way heavier than you probably want it to. So go back it all the way back to 50 to 60%, somewhere in there. And then each week, try to go up 5%. And as you get higher in percentages, your as you get higher in percentages, your reps are going to come down. You can probably still do the same amount of sets, but the reps are probably going to come down. But everybody responds differently. I have some females that they can pretty much, they need to go heavy every single week. It's just, that's how they stay strong. And then I have other people where it's like they can go heavy for like 2 weeks and then they need a back off week. I got others that can go heavy for 4 weeks and then they need a back off week. So everybody's different. It's all a big experiment. So feel it out, test it out with yourself and see what you come up with, because you're probably going to know pretty quick how much rest or when you need to put in a back off week. Rep maxes, that's just like I'm going to work up to a 5 rep max for the day. Now, when you do that, it doesn't have to be a true 5 rep max. I like to say like I'm going to work up to a heavy 5. Something that feels heavy for 5, feels challenging for 5. Maybe I could have done another 1, maybe another 2, but like I'm going to shut it down before my technique goes to garbage. Like that's one of the things that people often forget. Like technique is important. Now, this isn't a highly technical strength movement. This isn't something like a snatch, but if the poorer your technique is, the worse you're going to perform. The better your technique, most likely the better you're going to perform. Not daily. All right. So basically that's me saying you don't have to deadlift every day. Like don't try to cram it all in. A deadlift, even this hex bar, it's super taxing on your body. It is. And so if you're newer to it, the weights are going to be lighter. It's probably not going to be as bad, but as you get up there, as you do it more, it's going to be more, you're going to be more exhausted. Like, and it's going to carry over into the other things, your other training. So when, if you think of rucking, like you shouldn't ruck every single day. Like if you're training for something, if you're rucking every day, it's just frying your nervous system and everything else is probably in like massive disarray. Same thing happens with deadlifts. Like deadlifts is not an everyday. Like once a week, like once every 7 days, maybe once every 5 days, depending on how you train, like that's going to be plenty. That's going to be good enough. You don't need to deadlift multiple times a week. But the thing is, you can deadlift one day, you can squat another day, and then you can maybe do a variation on another day that's at a lighter weight. It won't be nearly as taxing. Or you can do alternative movements to help, like RDLs, and I'll link to some other things like hamstring curls, different things of that nature. But that's kind of the layout. So biggest things to remember when it comes to actually performing it. Get yourself set up, make sure you're centered in the bar, take a breath, get everything tight, push the floor away, stand up, control your descent, reestablish everything, and go again. Boom, that's deadlifting. Hope this helps.